Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be working with Phalaenopsis orchids. I brought some down and I was going to start working on them and thought I might as well bring you along to show you what's going on with some of my phals. These guys hang on the inside of this wall here. They're all hanging. They hang on the inside of this wall here on the warm side of the greenhouse, so they get plenty of heat. It's not so cool like right now we're on the cold side of the greenhouse. So they're doing really well over there. They were in the house last year and I brought them out this year. So this is their first winter out here because the warm side is fairly new. It only happened last summer, so I'm still sort of bringing stuff back out. But anyways, they're doing amazing. They spent the summer out here. Now, the summer on the warm side is warmer than the winter on the warm side. Makes sense, right? It gets lots of sun, it's bright. This time of year, temperatures over there even are cooler. We're in November now. I have less than 10 hours of light. Plants are really starting to feel the lack of light, including these guys. And wintertime is when most phals spike. They actually, some of them have started to spike long ago, as soon as they started feeling the reduction in light levels and the cooler temperatures. So some spikes are further along than others. But if you want to get your orchid to spike, just move it from where it is, put it somewhere a little bit shadier and a little bit cooler. I'm only talking a few degrees. You don't have to like freeze it. These guys do like it warm. I'm not saying to cool them down to like 60 degrees or anything, but if they're at 72, move them to like 68. And anyways, they should start to spike for you just with the reduced light and a bit cooler temperatures. But let's get going on these guys. And this one here, I just wanted to show you. It just opened up the other day for me, and I was super disappointed with it. It looks like a beautiful, beautiful Phalaenopsis orchid, and it is. But this guy here, he's new this summer, first time bloomer for me, Tetrapus. So it is actually supposed to have, every flower is different, and it's supposed to be anywhere from white to red blotches throughout the whole flower. So there could be on this, on the next flower, it could have like swirls of red in it or blotches on the petals. Unfortunately, this one had no color whatsoever. So I'm really hoping that it has two spikes and it's sequential blooming, so it'll bloom for a while. I'm really hoping the next ones actually have a bit of color to them. But yeah, it's a cool plant because every flower is different. One will have a red blotch there, the next will have two red blotches here. Obviously they come in all white. The next flower will open all red, and so on and so on. So I was kind of disappointed to see no blotches whatsoever. But I'm over it now. I just wanted to show you that plant because he's kind of cool and kind of new. And now we'll get on to some of my big old phals here. These guys I've had for years and years. They just keep going. So I'm going to try to start with the one that's in the middle because that's what I want to do. And it's in the most neglected shape, we'll say. I neglect my phals. I'm a phal neglector. I have so much going on in here that things sometimes get left behind. So it does need to be repotted, but that's not what we're doing today. Today we're just doing some general maintenance on it. So big plant, huge plant, hangs. Look at the new leaf that's come out since it's been this summer. Whew, really nice compared to some of the other leaves. So I'm happy with that. It means it likes it. It's hanging from back here, so it actually hangs like this. It's not an upright phal at all, but it hangs like this, which is a little more natural. Keeps water out of the crown. And when you're watering your phals and they're like this, you got to make sure no water gets in up here or else it can go rotten. You just want to keep it dry. If you get water up there, dry it off with a towel. Good air movement and humidity will also help with that. Let's see, I'm going to put this bottle here. We'll get to that bottle in a second. But I can see already it's got a big spike starting here. Big, big, big. Right there is a spike. So it's going to be a nice big one. We also have the old spikes still on there. Now this thing has bloomed so many times. There's a spike, and there's a spike, and there's a spike, and this is last year's spike, and I still haven't even cut this one off yet. So that's what we're going to do first. Now normally these spikes would be green, and what I wanted to show you, you always want to sterilize your tools when you're doing this. Not so important when they're brown, but if this was a green spike, I would definitely want to sterilize my tools. So I use to sterilize them in a quick hurry. I'm going to see how I can do this here. Let's move this over so it won't fall. This is the bottle of my soapy alcohol water spray. And I'm just going to spray it like that. Now I already did this off camera. I'm just doing it again for you. And that is how I sterilize. I gave it a quick wipe with a cloth after it sat for a few minutes with the soapy water. So this is 50% water, 50% rubbing alcohol, the isopropic 70%, and a tablespoon of Dawn dishwashing liquid, which is why it's bubbling. So I use that recipe for everything. It was even in the last video, and I'm using it again for this. It is just multi-purpose for me. And you can see I put some bamboo skewers in here last year, and then the spike grew, so I put some more skewers in, and I'm just going to cut this off right here. Being careful not to hit that spike there, and remove this whole thing and get rid of that. So we'll throw that on the floor for now. We always want to leave like one node. We don't want to cut it too low. If you cut it too low and it got some kind of bacteria in there, it could go right into the stem. So I like to cut it about an inch or so up, especially if it's wet. This one is so dry from last year, I don't have to really worry about anything. The other thing I would do at this point, I put cinnamon on any kind of open cuts like that, and you just literally put some in your hand. I can do it here, but it's not going to help because this is a dry one. You just literally put a pinch in your fingers like this, and I would go over to the green stem, and I would literally drop it on there and almost mash it in with my finger. And that's a good way. Cinnamon is natural antibacterial, antifungal ingredient, and so that would make sure it stays nice and clean. But other than a repot, which we're not going to do today, this guy is going to happily bloom for me again this year. So I am going to put him back on the shelf. Okay, and then there were two. Now let's look at this guy here. This is one of my newest sort of traditional phals. This is the second time it's bloomed for me. I bought this last year at Costco, and it was in bloom at the time. I haven't repotted it yet. It's a nice looking phal. When I saw it, I just sort of had to have it. I wasn't in the market for more, but it's blooming for me again. And unfortunately, I mean, it's almost finished blooming. Some of the blooms are starting to come to an end, but I never did stake this one. I'm bad, as I say, when it comes to phals. So today we're going to actually stake this up properly because it's been flopping all over for months. And it's funny because just like with the last one, I didn't cut last year's spike off, so it's all dried up. And I thought when this one was when it was starting to grow, all I did was I staked the new spike to the old spike. So we are going to try to cut that off without breaking there. Okay, you're gonna stay. So again, I'm working with dry spikes, not so important, but we want to sterilize our tools in between any kind of cuts. And then I'm going to snip this off, and I'm going to leave the node just here anyways because it's good practice. So we don't want to cut it way down here. Now, I'm not going to cinnamon that. That was just an example for last time because it's dry. It's not going to get it's not going to get infected. But we are going to now put in a stake. So stakes can be anything. These are the traditional stakes I'm going to use here. I find them to actually be a little bit short. They're great for when you're buying them in the store, but the wire ends up being short. My bloom spikes get quite large, and it's going to stake it and it's going to sturdy it up, but it's not going to be like a full size stake for this thing, which it's a shame. But I could go out in the yard and get a nice piece of bamboo, like a thin piece of bamboo would work nicely for this too. But for this time we are just going to use the traditional orchid stake, and what I'm going to do is put it in the ground, in the media. Seems like that should be an easy thing, but we don't want to damage any roots. So we want to make sure that the first instinct is to go to the edge of the pot, but that is also where all the roots are in the plant. So we don't actually want to go there. We want to go about an inch in from the outside of the pot, and I'm going to look for a spot where I can't see any roots, and then just slowly wiggle this into the ground, into the media, so it stays. And I think we cleared and didn't hit any roots, so that was good. Now I already have an orchid clip here, so these things work great. There we go. They are great for, there we go. They are great for hardened stems. I don't really like using these kind of clips on new stems because new stems are so soft. They're a lot more easily damaged than these ones. They get woody when they're old, but when they're new and new growth, they can break easily, they can bend easily. Sometimes they just snap if you're too rough on them. But there we go. So there's a nicely staked plant, and it might just have to sit upright for a while because, boy, that is a big spike. So really big there. The last one we are going to work with, we're going to do something similar, but we have to be a lot more careful because this one here is at one of the most dangerous points. Again, beautiful new leaf on this. Look at this year's growth. Nice huge leaf compared to last year's leaf. You can see it's bloomed for me a couple times. That is likely an old root, but it could be a bloom spike. Lots of new roots going in this one too. And yeah, we have this stake or this spike that is unstaked and sort of ready to get broken almost. This is at the worst stage. It's huge, it's big, but when it's like this, it's so fresh, it's so easy to bend. This thing would just snap like sort of like a little carrot. It would bend for a bit and then just give and break, and it'd be like in two pieces. It wouldn't just kink. So we have to be very careful with those ones. And I don't like using those orchid clips that we just talked about on this kind of spike because it is so tender. So let's do the same thing again. We're going to bend the camera back down here. I'm going to use the same sort of stake as I just used. And we're going to go to about 1 inch in. And you can see what side I'm sort of going on. The same side as the spike itself. I'm just looking for a little hole there where it will go in. Gently wiggle it in. And there we go. And for this guy, you can see how he's like going in a different direction. So that kind of sucks too. What we're going to do is I like to use cheap dollar store zip ties or zap straps. So I find them to be the most gentle, believe it or not. They're not clipping to the plant or anything like that. So I'm just going to clip this up. I've trained roots and spikes and everything with these things, so I can do that and leave it because there's a lot of tension on it, but I think we should still be able to get it straight up and down. I'm just going to go a little bit higher and do the same thing. And I don't mind if it has sort of a bend or an arch at the top. So you can see the other one has slipped down already. That's okay. I can just keep tightening these sort of slowly. I would love to be able to get it semi-tight to the post, and I kind of do it to feel. I can tell when they're like getting too bent and they're going to break, and these things do have like lots of give to them for the most part. But there we go. So I'm going to leave it like that. We have a little bit more room for it to keep growing, and I will maybe do one more. Now the scary thing about these zap straps or zip ties, if you were to go to use scissors on them, sometimes the scissors don't cut this properly and it will like bend and like jerk the stem like this. So what I find the best thing to do, pair of nail clippers like this, is so gentle to trim these. You just trim them like that so they look all pretty. And I use the nail clippers to remove them later too, because it's so gentle. I could just get in there like that and clip it, and it would be so gentle to remove those. But yeah, there we go. I don't even mind the bright colors of those red zap straps on these plants. And that is working with, we worked with 3 Phalaenopsis today, and I showed you one other, so we had 4 Phalaenopsis in this video that we sort of worked with and played around with. I hope you liked this video on staking. We talked about staking them, we talked about how to rebloom them and the temperatures. We talked about sterilization of the tools and how we remove old bloom spikes. So I think it was a pretty good video. So I hope you liked this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel. As always, thanks for watching.